Welcome back, everyone, to the smartest year ever. I missed you. I feel like it's been 23 hours and 55 minutes. My name is Gordy, and because it is the first day of weather week, I was just wondering, what the heck is a dew point? How am I supposed to use a dew point? Do tell. Give me 5 minutes, and I bet you can work this into a conversation today. But first, like and subscribe if you haven't so you can keep up. I do this every single day. The dew point. I feel like I could probably piece together a definition that I've heard over the years, but what does it really mean to me practically? Apparently, it is one of the most useful numbers in the entire forecast, but you just got to know how to read it. So that's what I'm going to help with today. Simply put, the dew point is the temperature at which the air becomes fully saturated with water vapor and can't hold any more. You cool the air below that temperature and the extra water vapor condenses into liquid. Dew on the grass, fog in the air, or sweat on your glass of Jamaica Fresca. It is the cousin of humidity, but they're not the same thing. All right. So while dew point is a direct factor in determining relative humidity is a percentage, like how much water vapor is in the air compared to the maximum amount it could hold at that temperature. The problem is that the number shifts wildly depending on air temperature. When the dew point is the same as the air temperature, for example, that means the relative humidity is 100%. All right, that's a good foundation to be on, So when the dew point and the air temperature are the same, that means relative humidity is 100%. And so if the temperature goes beyond that, you'll see the relative humidity drop. We'll get into that. All right, the dew point, right, is an absolute measure, unlike relative humidity. It really doesn't care whether it is 50 degrees or 90 degrees. And that's actually why it's a much better indicator of how the air will actually feel to you. The higher the dew point, the muggier it will feel. So I kept seeing the dew point referred to as the comfort truth teller. Dew point under 50 degrees, for example, that is when the air will feel crisp and dry. So sub 50, I would love that. Give me that any day, under 50 degree dew point. 50 to 60 degree dew point, that's still comfortable for most people. But when you get into like 60 to 65 degree dew points, that's when it starts getting a little sticky. 65 to 70, you're starting to get a little swampy. You're entering swampy territory, excuse my language, it's freaking muggy. Over 70 degrees dew point, that is when your body's cooling system really starts struggling because the sweat just won't evaporate fast enough. Boo, over 70 degree dew points. And the science behind it comes down to air's capacity to hold water vapor. Warm air can hold more water vapor than cool air, which is why summer mornings with high dew points feel like you woke up in a jungle still. Even though the temperature isn't high yet, you still feel muggy. If the dew point, for example, is 48 degrees and the air temperature is also 48 degrees, the relative humidity is at 100%, right? So that sounds awful, 100% humidity. But because the dew point's only 48 and the temperature's only 48, the air is still going to feel crisp. Cold air simply can't hold as much water vapor. So being 100% relative humidity at this temperature really isn't enough moisture to feel muggy. All right, that's why relative humidity is a scam, and we should be focusing on the dew point. To measure the dew point, weather stations use hygrometers, or chilled mirror sensors that literally cool a surface until condensation forms, and then they record that temperature. And beyond comfort, dew point is also a useful forecasting tool. For instance, I read that pilots watch the difference between air temperature and dew point pretty closely because when the two numbers get close to each other, within a few degrees of each other, that's when fog can form. So you can kind of anticipate fog. Let me know if you're a pilot and if that is true, or if these dorks who write these research papers are making stuff up. Meteorologists also track rising dew points to anticipate thunderstorms, since moist air near the surface feeds storm development. And if the dew point is at or below freezing, that's when you got a frost risk, folks. That's when you get a frost risk. That's when you gotta put a blanket on your plants or whatever. Geography plays a big role too. So Florida in July, for example, dew points often hit the mid to upper 70s, which is why walking outside feels like you're wrapped in a damp towel. And in Phoenix in July, though, the temperature may be higher than in Florida, but with a dew point in the 30s, like that's that tolerable dry heat. When you walk outside, well, at least it's dry heat. It's not the heat that gets you, it's the humidity, really. Oh, yeah, you're right. The weather is terrible, but yeah, it's the humidity that really gets you, not the heat. Dads everywhere like to say that. You know that's true. The highest dew point ever recorded is 95 degrees Fahrenheit, and it led to the highest heat index ever reported. Bandar Mashar, Iran. And that's where it was, where in July 2015, 115 degree air temp and 90% humidity combined for a feels like temperature of around 178 degrees. One of the deadliest heat recordings ever. God, that's brutal. Let me know if you were there. Anyone from Iran listening? So there you have it. The next time your weather app says dew point 72 degrees, you'll know exactly why you feel like you are wrapped in a wet towel sitting in a hot car. And when you hear dew point 48 degrees, you can enjoy that crisp, comfortable air with a smug, or muggy, not muggy, smuggy satisfaction of someone who actually knows what dew point means. Check out all my sources, which can be found in the YouTube description. Leave me a comment. Rate, like, subscribe. What kind of weather do you like? You like hot weather? You like cold weather? Do you have a favorite dew point? Let me know. Go check out the short version I do of all these on social media. You can find me at Smartest Year Ever for that little tiny clip. And in the meantime, stay curious and stay clever on our quest to become the world's greatest conversationalist. I will see you tomorrow in the smartest year ever. Dew point where I am right now today is in the 60s. My apartment, or where I'm recording this right now, is 77 degrees. That is too hot to be sitting in front of a light. See you tomorrow.